Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. hanging out here with you. Thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day and supporting the channel. Coming up, why the 49ers can shock the National Football League in 2025. I have 5 reasons. Before we do all of that, lock us in, hit that subscribe button, and when you do that, hit that bell icon and turn on your notifications. Therefore, whenever we go live, whenever we push out a show like this, you'll be notified, especially for a day like tomorrow. It is NFL schedule release day. I'm recording this show on Tuesday, May 13th. Tomorrow, Wednesday, May 14th, all schedules will come out for all 32 teams across the NFL. And of course, with this being the 49ers Report, we're going to talk about that Niners schedule in full detail, and you don't want to miss our breakdown. Hit that sub button right now and join the movement. Why the 49ers can shock the National Football League in 2025. Reason number 1, I think this year, as compared to last year, the 49ers will have much better coaching. And the hirings of Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator, Brant Boyer, special teams coordinator, I think will lead to the defense and special teams units being much improved. Not going to be hard to improve upon what we saw last year. A frustrating, maddening, annoying season that made all of us want to pull our hair out, considering the expectations that the Niners had going into 2024, coming off that Super Bowl defeat. And on the defensive side of the ball, week in, week out, they were bad. They were 29th in points per game allowed at 25.6. They were 29th in points per play, 25th on opposing third down conversion percentage, 26th in fourth down conversion rate. They were 31st in the red zone. This is crazy. That means that every time an opposing offense went inside the 20, they scored a touchdown 68+% of the time. The Niners also surrendered nearly 3 touchdowns per game. That ranked 26th among 32 teams. Yards per rush, they were not good against the run. 4.4, that was 17th. Rushing yards per game, 124.6, 18th. So they committed a lot of penalties. They were bad on third downs, fourth downs, in the red zone, gave up explosive plays, couldn't tackle, and they couldn't stop the run nor get after the quarterback. They also didn't generate a lot of giveaways. Only 1 turnover forced per ball game. That was 20th. And what did I just mention? Couldn't get to the quarterback consistently. Really outside of Nick Bosa, a lot of guys struggled along that defensive line and with this defense. 23rd in sacks per game at 2.2. And now the Niners bring back Robert Saleh, who is willing to evolve the defense, get creative, be malleable with his approach. He's one of the top defensive minds in the entire National Football League. He has a history of success with the Niners, and people will say, Chase, he was fired by the New York Jets. Wasn't the problem. They never got a quarterback. That was the issue. Their defenses performed under Saleh, and he was willing to adapt and evolve. That's especially important considering the current landscape of today's modern NFL. Very creative, a lot of new concepts. We've also seen Robert Saleh maximize defensive personnel. That's especially important because the Niners are a very young team, and they're going to be relying on a lot of rookies to be key contributors here in 2025, who they just drafted. And then lastly, the Niners need juice and energy on that sideline. Kyle Shanahan is not that type of guy. Nick Sorensen, very similar to Kyle Shanahan. Cool, calm, and collected. Flatliner. Steve Wilkes, he was up in the booth. Shanahan moved him down to the sideline because the Niners needed some juice. And I think the players feed off of that type of energy. With that comes Robert Saleh holding players accountable. I always think there's so much value in face-to-face communication. In this technological era, everybody is always on their phones. They're never enjoying the moment. They're never living in the present. And I think that face-to-face conversation aspect of human life, sports, football, business, it's underrated. Imagine just going out on a date and you never talked to that person before. Imagine going on blind dates A lot of times you're not successful with those blind dates because you've never been in front of that person, reading their eyes, reading their body language, reading their facial expressions. And when you're trying to coach, it's much different to coach from the booth when you're talking to somebody through a phone, right? Or an earpiece. And then with Robert Saleh, not only can he have those face-to-face conversations, but that energy, the accountability, the coaching, it can be felt from his players. And so the approach, the defensive acumen, all of these things, a breath of fresh air. And the fact that Saleh, I think, is going to be a better coach, more aggressive. He's willing to make changes, adapt, and evolve. Those are things that Nick Sorensen really did not do. As for Brant Boyer, this is an old school, rugged football guy who's very intense. He will get after players if he needs to. Brian Schneider really never did that. And Brian Schneider, Nick Sorensen, Kyle Shanahan, they're all kind of relaxed, laid-back guys in a way. I know Kyle Shanahan can get amped up and pissed off, but he's always looking at that play tablet. He's never really getting in players' faces. Brant Boyer, Robert Saleh, they will do that, but the players understand the message. And Brant Boyer is quite the switch-up from what the Niners have had at special teams coordinator. Last year, and really over the last couple of years, what have we seen with that critical third phase of the game? Errors and miscues weekly. They gave up successful fake punts and trick plays to other special teams units. They had costly penalties. They would muff return attempts and coverages. And then last year, of course, they missed so many field goals. Of note, Brant Boyer also saying, we think that our new long snapper can greatly benefit Jake Moody in addition to Jake Moody getting healthier. Hopefully he's right, because Jake Moody last year was abysmal. The Niners special teams DVOA rankings under Schneider. Last year, abysmal. 31st in the NFL. Only the Titans, who picked number 1 in the draft this year, were worse. In 2023, they were 25th. And in 2022, 15th. Not going to cut it. Now, the Jets special teams EPA rankings under Boyer, they definitely staggered and they varied. In 2024, not good at 26th. But he did have some highly ranked units. And keep in mind, those Jets teams weren't that good as far as their talent levels. 2023, 11th. 2022, 13th. That plays. 2021, 19th. You'd like to see it a little bit higher. 2020, 25th. But 2019, 8th. 2018, 1st. 2017, 2016, 17th and 30th, respectively. So cumulatively, 14th. But with the defense improving, offense improving, if you can kind of be in that middle of the league range, Niners will be well off. And think about what they've done in free agency and in the draft. They have addressed and signed a lot of special teams players. There's also this, which doesn't show up under those analytical numbers that we just showed you. During his Jets tenure, from 2016 through 2024, Brant Boyer was so well-liked and he's such a good coach, he survived 3 regime changes. Boyer led a special teams unit that ranked tied for second in total touchdowns with 9, second in block punts with 8, and tied for 5th in special teams points scored, 63. And opponent kickoff return average, 21.8. Under his guidance, too, a couple of players were first-team All-Pros, Braxton Berrios and Andre Roberts, while 3 players, Justin Hardy, Roberts, and kicker Jason Myers, made Pro Bowl appearances. Defense, special teams, they're going to get a lot better because of coaching alone, in my opinion. And then offensively, I think the Niners rebound from last year. And I think it felt a lot worse than it actually was. But Kyle Shanahan still had maybe his worst year as a head coach since taking over this Niners job in 2017. He didn't coach to his level. He was pretty subpar. But even in a down year, with so many injuries, not getting help from your defense or special teams, the Niners' offensive rankings weren't all bad. Points per game, 14th. Has to be better at 22.9. But without Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, injuries along the offensive line, injuries elsewhere to players like Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle at moments, and with Brock Purdy playing up and down, context is obviously important. They moved the ball. They were 4th in yards per game at 376.3. They were 3rd in yards per play at 6.2. 9th on third downs bad in the red zone, though. And that's where Christian McCaffrey, I think, can really help them once again. 57.1, and the play calling has to be better. That percentage of 57.1, 14th in the NFL. Reason number 2 why the Niners can shock the NFL this year, on top of getting better coaching, offense, defense, special teams, an easier schedule. The Niners are slated to have the easiest schedule in the National Football League. We've talked about that before. I can also show you this. This is the NFL strength of schedule based on Vegas forecasted win totals from Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis. Look who's all the way up there in the green, that top left corner, the 49ers. Again, this is based on forecasted win totals for all of the opponents for the Niners in 2025. And so the 5 easiest schedules this year, per Sharp Football Analysis: Niners number 1, that's that 4th place in the division schedule. Patriots number 2, Saints number 3, Falcons number 4, Buffalo Bills at number 5. And furthermore, you just simply look at the home and away opponents. At home, coming to Levi Stadium, the divisional opponents: Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams. Falcons winnable game. Panthers winnable game. Jaguars winnable game. Titans winnable game. Bears winnable game. That's 5 winnable games outside of the division, and you're hoping that you can take some of those divisional games. And then on the road, again, Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, Saints winnable game. Buccaneers are pretty damn good, in my opinion. You have the Texans. That could be a difficult game because their defense is really good. DeMeco Ryans has familiarity with the team, but you should beat the Colts. You should beat the Giants. And can Kyle Shanahan finally beat Jim Schwartz? You should. You're a better team. But right there, you can see a realistic path to double-digit wins for the Niners. So prediction time here. Will the Niners make the playoffs in 2025? Why for yes and for no? Join the conversation down in the comment section right now. Speaking of the 2025 season, get ready for it and get your Niners jerseys right now. Some great deals thanks to our friends at Fanatics. All you have to do is use that link down below, chatsports.com/49jersey. All types of different jerseys available. Michael Williams will be wearing the number 98. You have the 94 throwbacks, the current home and away. You can also throw it back to the golden era of Niners football. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Steve Young, Ronnie Lott. All of those jerseys are available. If you want something other than a jersey, a polo, a shirt, a hoodie, you can still use that link, and you can find all of that merchandise there thanks to our folks at Fanatics. It's chatsports.com/49jersey. Reason number 3 why the Niners can shock the NFL: the play of Brock Purdy. I think with the Niners getting healthier, getting better coaching from Kyle Shanahan and play calling, getting better performances from the defense and special teams, and just having that semblance of continuity with being healthier, because it can't get much worse than it was last year, and Brock Purdy having another year under his belt for the game to slow down, for him to get acclimated with this offense, to him to just make improvements, I think that we will see a rebound performance from Purdy in 2025. I also tweeted this out, and I found this to be pretty interesting when I was just taking a look at some deep dive numbers this morning. And I posed this tweet. Give me a follow on X at Chase_Senior. But this is what I wrote. Could the 49ers have a sneaky, explosive passing game in 2025? A lot of people say Brock Purdy has a weak arm. He can't throw the deep ball. But the numbers do not back that up. He was number 1 in deep ball completion rate in 2023. Number 8 in a down year in 2024. It is an underrated element to his game. And I do think that last year, yes, he underthrew some long balls, but everybody wants to act as though he has a complete noodle arm. That's just not the case. He's also been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football since becoming the starter in 2022. But you think about some of the additions and the players on this Niners team from a speed standpoint. Jordan Watkins, the Niners got him in the 4th round. He runs 4.3. He's explosive. I'm also open to the Niners signing Gabe Davis. He had really high Pro Football Focus grades on throws of 20-plus yards year by year. And outside of last year, when he was at 74.3, every year was 96 or higher. Brandon Ayuk, he has the long ball element to his game as a receiver. Ricky Pearsall, he can run. Jacob Cowie, Demarcus Robinson, they are long ball threats. And so the Niners, I think, can generate some explosive plays through the air for Purdy. Hopefully he can get that offensive line protection. You know the running game is going to be productive, and that's not to mention that Jauan Jennings is also within this receiving core. I wouldn't label him a speed guy like those other players, but he's a great security blanket for Brock Purdy. And how about what Kubiak said, the Niners' new offensive coordinator? He said, look, we think that Jauan Jennings is our number one wide receiver right now because Brandon Ayuk is out. And Jauan Jennings himself, he believes that too, coming off a career year last year. Reason number 4 why the Niners can shock the NFL, injury rate. I'm just not expecting the Niners to be as banged up and as injured as they were last year. And remember around this time a year ago when we were talking about the rest disadvantage for the Niners, it was the worst in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens, for instance, they were number 1 in rest disadvantage in the NFL. They had more than a month difference of rest days as compared to the Niners in a season that is September, October, November, December into January. So 4+ months. The Ravens had about a month edge on the Niners. That's not going to be the case. And it's going to be an easier schedule. And the Niners aren't going to have those arduous back-to-backs in which either they don't have a lot of rest days between games or they're playing opponents coming off of bye weeks. And so the injury rate is also going to help the Niners too. And then at number 5, some youth juice. There is an influx of youth talent on this team. And obviously there will be a learning curve, which is usually a steep one, going from college to the pro game. But these draft picks who the Niners took, a lot of them are experienced, but a lot of them are athletic. They're long. They have really intriguing testing traits. They all in college had good respective skill sets. And when you get younger, not only do you get more athletic, you get more speed, you get more physicality, you get more juice, but a lot of times these players are a lot hungrier. And last year, the Niners did not play like a hungry team. They played like a team that was tired, beaten and battered, that was lacking confidence. And I think all of these things directly impact how San Francisco can turn it around from last year's 6-11 season to perhaps win the division, be one of the top teams in the NFC, thus shocking the NFL. If you're with me and you believe in the Niners in 2025, I want you to give me a real one down below. Also, thank you to everybody who continues to support me and my brand individually on my social media pages. Just got past 16,000 followers on X, all the way up to 16,100, and just surpassed 37,000 followers on Instagram, putting out so much Niners content over there in addition to right here on YouTube.